I have gone out, a possessed witch, haunting the black air, braver at night. Dreaming evil, I have done my hitch over the plain houses, light by light. Lonely thing, 12-fingered, out of mind. A woman like that is not a woman, quite. I have been her kind. I have found the warm caves in the woods, filled them with skillets, carvings, shelves, closets, silks, innumerable goods. Fixed the suppers for the worms and the elves, whining, rearranging the disaligned. A woman like that is misunderstood. I have been her kind. I have ridden in your cart, driver, waved my nude arms at villages going by, learning the last bright routes. Survivor where your flames still bite my thigh, and my ribs crack where your wheels wind. A woman like that is not ashamed to die. I have been her kind. The emotional weight of Anne Sexton's performance often dominates how we read her work. To understand the true mechanics of this poem, we have to look past the visceral delivery and examine its rigorous structural architecture. We are going to deconstruct the underlying mechanical architecture of her kind by analyzing the exact mathematical constraints operating beneath the text. Sexton is almost universally categorized as a confessional poet. The label implies a raw, unfiltered spilling of personal trauma, mental illness, and private distress onto the page. Because of that label, the public perception of her work often assumes it is chaotic and unstructured. In practice, Sexton utilized intense formal rigor to govern her subjects. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, American women faced intense cultural pressure to conform to strict suburban domestic roles. The margin for acceptable behavior was incredibly narrow. To critique the way society pathologized female deviance during this era, her kind utilizes rigid formal constraint, syntactic distancing, and archetypal substitution. Moving beyond biographical appreciation to mechanical deduction reveals the political weight built into the text. This diagram represents the poem's foundational structural unit, built entirely on the heptastitch, a precise 7-line stanza. Across all 3 stanzas, Sexton deploys an unvarying rhyme scheme, A, B, A, B, C, B, C. This mathematical precision functions as a deliberate containment field, locking the narrative firmly into place. Inside that rigid form, Sexton pours highly volatile, transgressive psychological material, themes of madness, isolation, and social execution. The wild imagery pushes against the strict borders of the stanza, creating immediate friction between the content and the container. This specific tension mirrors the internal struggle of a mind attempting to impose cognitive order onto psychological chaos. During the Cold War, corporate advertising campaigns, most notably the This Is Your Wife series, promoted a compartmentalized view of domesticity. Women were categorized into neat roles: the chef, the nurse, the maid. Sexton deconstructs these acceptable corporate roles by substituting them with 3 marginal, grotesque figures. In stanza 1, she introduces the witch. This archetype operates as a direct spatial rejection of the illuminated, safe domestic sphere. The witch reclaims absolute isolation. She exists entirely in the nocturnal space, hovering above and outside the boundaries of the plain houses. Moving to stanza 2, Sexton introduces the cave dweller, serving as a warped, funhouse mirror reflection of the mid-century housewife. The cave dweller enacts a feral domesticity. She gathers skillets, silks, and goods, but instead of feeding a traditional nuclear family, she prepares suppers for worms and elves. She takes the modern, sanitized kitchen and substitutes it for the uncivilized, wild space of the woods. By utilizing these first 2 archetypes, Sexton maps the outer boundaries of female deviance against the highly circumscribed limits of Cold War womanhood. Stanza 3 presents the final archetype, the martyr. As she is driven naked in an execution cart, the martyr's public exposure acts as a final, defiant rejection of patriarchal ownership over the female body. The brutal imagery of flames biting her thigh and cracking her ribs is stripped of its disciplinary power. Instead of a state of punishment, it becomes a testament to physical endurance. Ultimately, the martyr archetype frames social exile and execution as a mechanism for absolute, unashamed survival. Tracing the dialogic conflict through shifting pronouns on this syntactic tree, each stanza launches with subjective declarations like, I have gone out. But in line 6, the syntax abruptly shifts to the third person. A woman like that is not a woman quite. This syntactic distancing represents the external societal gaze. It is the voice of the culture attempting to clinically pathologize the female subject and push her into a safe, objective category. The poem operates as an aesthetic arena where the subjective, lived experience is forced to directly confront its own societal categorization. The structural tension and the dialogic conflict of the entire poem converge on the final line of each stanza. The refrain, I have been her kind, forces the grammar back into the first person, claiming direct ownership over the outcast archetype. This resolves the dialogic conflict. The poetic I actively subsumes and reclaims the pathologized third-person verdict imposed by society. Through this linguistic reclamation, Sexton forges a collective, historic lineage of female suffering and resistance. Sexton's enduring power in feminist literature is rooted in these rigorous structural mechanics and intellectual control. In Her Kind, Sexton constructed a universal, meticulously structured act of defiance out of the private capsule of personal pain.